You people out there in podcast land should feel very privileged, blessed, special, because as you listen to this, this is the last Sports Frenzy 2.0 episode of 2022.
He couldn't let it go.
All you haters out there were hoping I would say ever, but that's not going to happen.
Happy freaking New Year, people.
Episode 52 of 2022, Sports Frenzy 2.0, taping on December the 28th. This will hit the morning of Thursday, December the 29th. He is the conquistador, Dave Height.
He's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And yes, we're still knee-deep in football season, so the NFL comes first and foremost, as always. The playoff picture clearing up a little bit.
Yep, the wild card's still a muddy mess, but that's as it should be.
With the extra game now we've had to deal with here over the last couple of years, this is what they wanted.
Yep. And with the Buccaneers playing so badly, the NFC South is up for grabs.
Yes.
With a bunch of sub-500 teams.
And we'll get to that. Of course, the Buccaneers had to, again, come from behind, beating the Cardinals in overtime, 19-16. Third-string quarterback in for the Cardinals. McSorley's in. You know, they're showing his parents up there, former Penn State quarterback against the GOAT.
Again, not a good season for the Bucs or Brady. He scraped by this one, almost had another third stringer knock him off his perch.
And again, though, I don't want to keep blaming Todd Bowles, but at the same time, he is the one thing.
The one difference in that team.
And again, there's other people out there in the media finally starting to say the same thing as I am. Would this be happening if Bruce Arians was on the sideline, en route to his 15th heart attack?
Or finally screaming
and yelling, asking for a whiskey sour on the sidelines. Whereas Todd Bowles, every time you see him, just sits there staring like a golem,
Kind of reminds you of the old Ty Willingham at Notre Dame.
I've told you this in the past, I don't like coaches like that. I want the guys who at least occasionally get pissed off and fired up.
Get in somebody's face. They need a reality check from time to time. These pampered, overpaid babies need a swift kick in the ass.
So the Buccaneers are now facing not a do or die, but if they beat the Panthers this weekend, they're in. If they lose, then it turns into a mess for Week 18, but we'll get to that later. Out of our teams, the big news comes out of Miami.
Tua with another concussion. They don't know when it happened during the game against the Packers Sunday. Obviously, it was early on before his second half meltdown where he threw those horrible picks. I mean, they weren't even close. You knew something had to be wrong. And now we find out what it was. But if he was looking normal on the sidelines communicating, obviously something wasn't right with him where he couldn't see the field properly.
Yeah, and now it's looking like even if he were somehow to miraculously to clear the concussion protocol, which usually takes a week and a half.
Shut him down for the season. His health is more important than sliding into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and the way things are going, now they're 8-7. Teddy Bridgewater steps in. They're going to New England to play the Patriots, who have lost 2 winnable games on 2 awful, fluky, ridiculous, odd things you would never see in any other year over the past 2 decades from a Bill Belichick team.
Yeah, undisciplined plays.
I'm not trying to give away my pick, but I don't see Miami going up to New England, even if the weather's going to be decent like it's supposed to be.
They're just they're in a shambles right now.
Yeah, I think this is just the Dolphins.
I mean, my God, their defense couldn't do anything against the Packers, and they had plenty of opportunities to step up.
Unfortunately,
and they didn't.
this is one of those situations where the Dolphins are on that downward slide, and now with this, I think it's going to keep going. But like you said, the health of the player is more important, but long-term, you are the Dolphins guy here. What are you looking at? I mean, are you looking at continuing on with Tua? Should the Dolphins start making backup plans?
They need to make a backup plan and find another quarterback to go long-term. Because you're not going to be able to rely on Tua to stay healthy.
Yeah,
you've seen it at Alabama with the ankle and some other issues that he had. You've seen it in the last couple years with Miami with other dings that he's had where he's had to miss games. And now this year with the concussions, you can't rely on him long term. You have to start making backup plans.
Yeah, it's a shame because they had that team built, as we've seen at points during this season, to rock and roll with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The only thing with the Dolphins, I would say the defense is disappointing me a little bit. Especially once they brought in Bradley Chubb. You thought that
should have put that line to be a wrecking crew, and it has failed miserably.
Well, you just said it. This past weekend with the Packers game, Aaron Rodgers was able, without all of his weapons, Christian Watson was out.
And again, the officiating has been god-awful horrible because there were a couple of those, oh my God, Rodgers is awesome, look at that pass, where there was major holding taking place that allowed him to escape and make the play that needed to be done.
Yeah, it's just 26-20 was the final on Christmas Day. The Packers.
It's a double suck game because the Dolphins lost and it was to the effing Packers.
Yeah, and the Packers are somehow weaseling their way back into the playoff picture with everything they want going their way, and they're not a good team. They are not. They've got two good running backs. They don't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
Rodgers doesn't look that good.
When
he doesn't have anybody to throw to.
When he's hurried, he can't make a decent pass. So they have to hold, and they're getting away with it to buy him the time to make the pass that he needs.
So we'll get into more of the playoff picture when we do our recap here in a minute of Week 16. Do you even want to talk about the Bears' loss to the Bills?
No.
The Bills beat the Bears 35-13. And again, I will admit, shamefully, I didn't watch it. I was watching the other game that was actually had playoff implications.
The Bears actually looked good through the first quarter and a half. The defense was holding their own. They were moving the ball fairly well, and then the wheels just fell off.
Yeah, I'm to the point now where I want to watch games that matter. I already know what I need to know about Justin Fields. I already need to know what I need to know about the rest of the team. Justin Fields is fine.
The rest of the team, trash.
Yeah, we need to figure out what to do about the rest of the team.
Now, the one thing that we have going for us is the Bears now have a shot at the number 1 overall pick. All the Texans have to do is beat Indianapolis.
I was going to say, they're not going to beat Jacksonville this weekend.
No.
So you're talking about
the last
Week
18, the Texans can legitimately beat the Colts.
Yeah, and after what I saw from the Colts this past Monday night, I'm not blaming Jeff Saturday. I've got to believe
to some extent.
No, I've got to believe Irsay is the one Because remember, there is a clause in Matt Ryan's contract where he will not get
Colts.
paid X amount of dollars if he doesn't play X amount of snaps. Because after what you saw, or what I saw, this past Monday night from Nick Foles, that was trash.
That was an absolute debacle on an epic scale.
I am shocked. After hearing what the Jets fans did Thursday night to Zach Wilson when they got beat by Jacksonville, I was waiting for the boos to cascade down in Lucas Oil Stadium. And again, the acoustics aren't great.
No, they're not.
Stadium, but and I never heard. I was like, Nick Foles is trash. He is trash. He was trash with the Bears. He's somehow lucked into 1 year where he won a Super Bowl. He is trash. He is awful. Let Sam Ehlinger play. At least see what you got in terms of some kind of a youth movement.
Yeah, they have to do something.
Even if Irsay doesn't want to pay Matt Ryan his bonus for starting or playing downs or whatever it is.
Don't roll Foles back out there, but they've already committed to Foles for this weekend again.
And that's where I'm saying I don't think that's Saturday. I think that's coming from Irsay. Now, does that make Saturday a puppet? Yes, it does.
It does, and he's made some really bad, horrible decisions.
Yeah, but you know what also he's done? He has been almost spot on perfect with all of his challenges. And that was the one thing. He's good
on that.
The one thing on Monday night, which again I bring up and other people have brought up, which I can't stand, is the fact that he had to challenge 2 bad calls in the first half. He got them both right. Well, he's got 1 left. Why does he only get 1? If he gets 2 right, you should keep rolling them over. If you get 1 right, you get it back.
Exactly.
He shouldn't have had to challenge 2 bad calls, get them both overturned, and then they tell him, well, you got 1 left now for the rest of the game. Bullshit.
You wouldn't need him if the officials actually were consistent and made the right calls.
I'm trying to reinforce your point from a few minutes ago.
My God, it's been any game you watch, the officials have been awful. And I'm so tired of the commentators glossing it over. They won't touch it. Probably under NFL directive.
Well, number one, you've got the suck-up sycophant in each and every booth now, the former official, whether it's Mike Pereira,
any of those
waggling his tongue or whatever he's doing up there. Now, I will say this. They have actually, more often than I've seen in the last few years, have actually said, I don't like that call. Or I don't like the fact they missed that call. I will say
you're getting a little of that, but you need to call it out.
Not as much as we should.
It needs to be flat out called out. And maybe it's time that the NFL actually has to break down and make their officials full-time so you can get everybody on the same page. Every damn team of officials should be calling the game the same damn way. You shouldn't have to worry about who you got for the draw. Oh, they call the holding all day long. They never call holding. You can get away with anything on the passing game. Nope. Pass interference against the defense every time out with that crew. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the percentages should be a lot closer. You're right. All right, another NFL news. Of course, we talked about it last week. It's official, 7-year deal. Sunday Ticket goes to YouTube and YouTube TV. You better not jack up my rates. That's all I'm saying.
Wait for it.
I don't need the Sunday Ticket. I don't understand the appeal of the Sunday Ticket unless you're a rich asshole out of market who has to, without doubt, watch every single freaking game of your team. Even though you can probably see at minimum 5 to 6. 5 to 6 even through Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night. You're gonna get to see 5 or 6 minimum.
Yeah.
I see more than enough football. I don't need the Sunday ticket for $300, $400
No,
a year.
not at all.
And if they screw over the YouTube TV subscribers by charging them more just to have YouTube TV because of this to make up the money, then they can screw off.
You know what I would love to see? More teams rotate through on the Sunday game of the week instead of the fucking Cowboys week in and week out.
Well, you and I said that for years. So the Cowboys, America's team.
Bull crap.
Yeah. Why would a Cowboys fan ever pay for the Sunday ticket when their team is on out of 17 games?
Week.
Probably 15 of those games are nationally televised.
It's ridiculous.
$2 billion plus. YouTube shells out. Well, of course, Google is really who's paying the money.
Yeah.
$2 billion plus for 7 years for Sunday ticket. Injuries. We kind of knew about these two. Aaron Donald for the Rams. He's got an ankle issue. He's out for the year now officially.
Yep.
Bad for the Titans, given the fact they don't have a backup plan. Another ankle injury. Ryan Tannehill.
Yep.
He's most likely done, and that means Malik Willis, who just is not ready.
No, they have not prepared that poor kid at all.
No, that's why this Thursday night game is going to be awful. It's going to be it's a team with playoff aspirations versus a team that's trying to move up in the playoff slotting, but with Malik Willis,
he's not good.
No. And now with Derek Henry, the news now today that Derek Henry might not play. Oh, my God.
That's devastating for the Titans. That puts everything on the poor quarterback.
Yeah. They have no skill players outside of Tannehill and Derek Henry.
Yeah, that's it.
Eagles fighting through injuries now here at the end of the season as the number 1 seed in the NFC. Of course, we know about Jalen Hurts. Credit to Gardner Minshew for playing. And I've said Gardner Minshew is the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. He played his ass off.
Yes. He made mistakes.
But that's because he doesn't play that often.
Right.
You got to get into the game rhythm.
And I don't think anybody's holding it against him. I think everybody said he looked good. And if he wants to, he could probably fight for a starting job somewhere next year if he, puts up a stink and says, I want out of here.
Miami.
It'd be fine just to have him as a backup.
Yeah, better than Bridgewater.
And kind of whisper in his ear, say, you're going to start. You're going to start. Just take the backup role for now. You're going to start. But, of course, one of the best offensive tackles in the game, Lane Johnson, for the Eagles.
That hurts.
Has an abdominal tear. He is skipping surgery. He's going to heal up for a couple weeks. He's going to
gut it out.
Playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Surgery would end the season for him, but he's trying to heal up enough, taking a few weeks off.
Of course, big news. Broncos finally pull the trigger, fire head coach Nathaniel Hackett. Not even 1 full year into his tenure.
No, this is going to be the 4th head coaching search since 2017 that the owner, Penner?
Well, they just shifted owners.
Yeah, but owner CEO George Penner, he's been involved in the other ones because he's a co-owner and the CEO of the team, along with the GM, George Patton. This will be their 4th go-round on trying to find a head coach. At what time do you pull the plug on these two making the decision?
Well, the owner thing is taken care of.
Yeah,
but the GM, you're right. The GM is the one that was in play for all of these moves. The ownership has changed. It's the Walton family now.
We'll see what they can do.
But the problem is they are saddled now with this awful Russell Wilson deal, where they have mortgaged their future for a guy that Seattle was more than willing to let go
and charge a king's ransom to
and they saw the last 2 years how he declined in skills.
Yep, they they took full advantage of the Broncos. And the
Yeah.
Broncos were dumb enough to extend him before seeing what he would do.
And, of course, the one name that's coming up right now, I can't see Sean Payton even
He would
thinking
not
about
go
taking
to
this.
Denver.
Now,
That
the
is
thing
a train wreck.
Now, with Brandon Staley, with the Chargers getting in the playoffs now, that job's not going to be opened up. So he's going to have to look elsewhere. He's already talking about having Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator.
Wherever
So
he goes. That's a
intimidating pair.
That's
Now,
got potential.
Would you possibly? I
written
know you
on
were
it.
just talking about the Texans and how they could stumble their way out of the number one pick. But if they end up with the number one pick, whether it's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, franchise quarterback, would the Texans' clean slate be appealing enough if they fire Levy? Because I can't think of another job. I mean, he doesn't want Kyler Murray. He's not going to Arizona.
No, hell no.
Does he go to – I'm starting to hear crazy things about that owner, Tepper, in Carolina. I don't think he wants that mess.
You don't want to go there.
I don't think there's a great opening right now. I really don't.
There's not. Maybe a clean slate Texans team.
That's the only thing I can think of where you get to pick your quarterback.
You get to build it.
Right. They could strip that thing down, bare bones, and he can build it up from scratch. That's the only thing I see.
Yeah.
Of course, Dave and I agree on the fact, I believe we do, that J.J. Watt is one of the most overrated players of all time. But, of course, all the fanfare, all the bells and whistles, because he's announced he's retiring. Now, he had a great game here this past week.
Yeah. He's had a very good career.
But too many injuries.
Way too many injuries. That's the thing that makes him overrated, is he could never stay healthy for even a good part of his career. He should be the all-time sacks leader if he wouldn't have been injury bitten.
Yeah,
I mean, he should be leading everything. When he's healthy, he is one of the most dominant players ever to play on the defensive side of the ball.
But there's something to be said for being on the field.
Yeah.
As opposed to only being on the field half the time and being unbelievable when you're on the field, but not being there all the time for your teammates, for your team.
Yeah.
And that's why he never has had a sniff of anything beyond the first round of the playoffs.
Right. So, now, yeah, and he is a larger-than-life personality. And when it comes to the off-the-field stuff, he is one of the greatest guys out there.
Oh, absolutely.
In the community, whatever he does, fantastic.
Yep. Jets wide receiver coach Miles Austin is suspended for a year for gambling. Not on football.
Not on football, but just on sports. Because it's clearly in the NFL rules. There is no gambling on sports, period.
How do you feel about that? Do you think that's
fair? If you're
fair?
Involved in a sport, I got no problem with it. If you want to go to the roulette table, if you want to go sit at the blackjack table, do any of that stuff. So
you're saying that you're okay with it as long as you're not gambling like Pete
As long as you're not sports betting.
But what if he bets on baseball?
The NFL has it in the rules.
Okay, I know they do.
Because you don't know what can happen. Maybe you can work with a coach elsewhere.
Well, but that doesn't matter if you're in sports or not in sports. You could have a CEO of an advertiser talking to a coach.
Yeah.
And that CEO, can take that information and do what he wants with it.
Yeah. Now, I don't know.
This is
play by the rules, kids.
Yep, this is something we talked about.
Because I can see as a coach, if you wind up getting deep in debt and can't pay your way out of it, and the books come up and say, we'll forgive this, but we need a little something that they could man.
But again, how are you getting that something from baseball or basketball?
If you're the
anybody
football,
else,
if
could
you're
do
betting
that
on
too.
anything else in another sport and you go into debt, they can say we can wipe it, but your receiver may have to sit out a potential play, or
Right,
you fix something for a point spread.
That makes more sense. But you could also say that about...
You could also do it if they're table gambling or whatever.
But again, this is such a deep, dark hole to get into. Because
it is.
You could talk about this with somebody who works for the military.
Yeah. And
if they get in deep, dark gambling debts. So why did we allow gambling when it can be used and extorted?
In nefarious purposes. Actually, they tried to legalize it to avoid having that type of thing from happening.
Still, it's an interesting topic we will revisit another day.
Just take all the damn commercials off the TV. I don't need to hear about DraftKings and all that bullshit.
I'm sick of that too. Yeah. How about this for irony? With all the problems in 2022 Dan Snyder has had, now it comes out that the most famous unit in Washington football history, the Hogs,
have now filed a lawsuit against him for using their name, image, and likeness.
Damaging. Not only using it without recompensation, but damaging the brand.
The brand.
And it's not only the Hogs, the offensive lineman. John Riggins is in on this too.
Yeah, because he's an official member.
Who I loved. I thought John Riggins was, for a couple years, the greatest running back. He was there with Earl Campbell in terms of a guy, he'd just run people over.
Yeah,
loved
as
watching
a fullback, he was a fullback who played the running back position.
Yep. Let the NFL's long national nightmare end. Sell the team, and let's get the Washington Commanders back in some semblance of decent shape. One of the most historically prominent franchises in NFL history. Let's just get them back to respectability.
Bring them back out of the sewer that Snyder has flushed them into. All right. So bad.
Yes, there will be spillage. This will probably be the last week, though, because after this, the bowl games are over. The NCAA stuff is going away for the most part. Looking back in NFL Week 16, of course, we talked about the Jaguars beating the Jets. Zach Wilson, done. Got to be done.
Yeah, you can't have him anymore.
The Jets fans will, I hate to say it,
tear the building
string
down.
him up if he ever plays another game, because he looked awful. Jaguars win, though, and that put them in first place in the AFC South. They win out, they're in.
Frightening, isn't it? But not really, because you have a Super Bowl winning head coach
and
calling the shots down there.
A number one quarterback pick from last year who's finally getting it.
Yeah, who's got a quarterback whisperer in his head coach who knows how to get the most out of him.
Embarrassing loss for the Cleveland Browns on the 24th on Christmas Eve. Losing outdoors in the cold in abysmal conditions to an indoor team.
That was an epic letdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're going to love Deshaun Watson for years and years to come, Cleveland. Saints win 17-10 to keep their hopes alive.
Yep. Vikings have to come back on the Giants.
Again.
God.
But both teams come out better in the end because the Giants should be able to make the playoffs because of all the other teams that lost. And the Vikings are still in play for that number one seed.
Yep. Bengals get by the Patriots.
We talked about that, though, for 2 weeks in a row. The Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson fumbles.
Yep. They clinch defeat out of the jaws of victory.
For 2 weeks in a row. All right, spillage coming. Second segment. Dave and I will continue with our NFL wrap-up. Hold on. Are you having trouble falling asleep behind the wheel of your expensive SUV? Are you finding difficulty in avoiding golf clubs thrown at you by your angry wife as you pull out of the driveway? Sign up today for the Tiger Woods Driving School, sponsored by Sports Frenzy 2.0. We'll show you how to text ladies of the night while still driving effectively in the wee hours of the morning. We'll also teach you how to ditch a suspicious backpack when you end up driving into a ditch. Check out Sports Frenzy 2.0 on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, for updates on our latest classes, including how to curse and swear in front of uptight golf fans and their children and still be adored by millions. The Tiger Woods Driving School. It's great.
Hey kids, it's the Conquistador Dave Height.
And the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And here, segment 2, NFL Spillage for Sports Frenzy 2.0 on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Amazon, Audible, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, and Stitcher! All right. Happy New Year, kids. We're recording December 28th. This will hit Thursday, the 29th, 2022. Last Sports Frenzy of the year.
Yes, this is actually the closeout of our first full year. We started a few months into 2021, so 2022 marks the first full year of the Sports Frenzy 2.0 podcast, and we couldn't be more overjoyed that all four of you out there
have stuck with us. Tell your friends, tell your family, let's get this going. Maybe we can go national. Get on the TV, do some of this stuff, get paid for it.
Everybody else seems to be on TV, you know?
Why can't we get paid for this?
We tried the YouTube thing. That didn't work. They kicked us off of that.
Yep, wouldn't let us use snippets of music, bastards. All right, back to our picks from last week, our recap.
NFL Week 16. The Detroit Lions were looking so promising. The elder statesman was giddy. He was happy as a Detroit Lions fan. And then they go into Carolina.
And cannot stop the run.
Carolina runs for almost 300 yards, I believe.
Yep. Well, that was just an abysmal showing.
Between Chuba Hubbard and Dante Foreman.
Yeah.
37-23. The Lions severely damage their playoff hopes. Of course, the elder statesman emailed the entire group. It's like, first time ever, everybody took the Lions. Yeah, how'd that go?
Epic disaster.
The 49ers continue to roll, proving they're arguably the best team in the NFC, beating the Commanders 37-20. Now the Commanders have to look at winning out to hold on to their final playoff spot. They're still there.
They're still there, and they're going with Carson Wentz from henceforth.
Yep.
Tyler Heineke has been sat on the bench.
The bloom is off the rose, as they say with Tyler Heineke.
Yeah, he could not get them to score.
It's almost like the Colts with Nick Foles, where how bad are things when you've got to go to Carson Wentz?
Exactly.
Fantastic game late afternoon on Christmas Eve between the Cowboys and the Eagles. We talked about Gardner Minshew. Still love him. Still think he's underrated. Still think most teams would be ecstatic to have him as a starter or a backup. Played very well. But the Cowboys, I figured at home this would happen.
Yeah, especially with some key injuries happening with the Eagles at this point.
Yep. Cowboys end up coming from behind, winning 40-34. So they are locked into the playoffs, still have a shot at getting the top seed, but they need a lot of things to fall their way. Now, of course, the news today, which I found ridiculous. They passed on Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Smartly, wisely.
Very wisely.
Now rumors are they might be looking at bringing in Terrell Owens.
Oh my God, why?
Supposedly in phenomenal shape.
I don't
Would set the record, beating George Blanda. Blanda played when he was 48. T.O. is 49.
He hasn't played in how long?
But again, he's in phenomenal shape. I don't dispute that.
There's but being in phenomenal shape, and then there's being in football shape.
If he's the 4th or 5th guy in the depth chart, he'll take that. I'm just saying. It would be an interesting little stunt for Jerry Jones to pull.
Oh, my God. And
could you put it past him?
I would not put it past him. Giving him a legitimate chance to stand on the star without getting obliterated.
But, of course, if somebody yells at him from the stands,
he's going to go up into the stands.
Yeah, that's a Karen. I'm suing you. That's Karen. And, of course, Christmas Eve, we had the just debacle. We'll get to it later about the coverage of the Franco Harris tribute. But the Steelers were, again, the Raiders are just like the Patriots the last couple of weeks. The Raiders have been like this the whole season. They are snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
They're just not a cohesive unit. And I'm sorry, it comes down to the coach.
Oh, but of course now...
That was a freaking playoff contending team that has failed miserably this year.
Steelers come from behind and win 13-10, keeping their playoff hopes alive, basically destroying, outside of a miracle, the Raiders' hopes. So what do? They say, we're done with Derek Carr.
Yep.
News comes down today, Derek Carr is done for the year with the Raiders.
Because they want to evaluate the young talent they have
Jarrett
going
Stidham?
forward.
Are you kidding me? Jarrett Stidham? That's not evaluate. That's like Foles playing for the Colts. It's a joke.
It's pathetic.
It's a joke. I hope Derek Carr gets somewhere where people will appreciate him. And now, what is that going to do?
They've been wanting to get him out of the Raiders organization since a year after they drafted him.
It's a shame, too. And I think he could play. There are going to be a lot of good quarterbacks on the market this year. Now, as long as you don't go crazy like the Broncos did trading for Russell Wilson, you're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo. You're going to have Derek Carr out there, potentially. Minshew. There's going to be some decent
considering
the fact that, from what I'm hearing, 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Bryce Young, Alabama, Stroud, Ohio State, and that's it. Other than that, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So a lot of these teams...
And I'm even going to say Stroud is going to be a crapshoot. I'm not sold on him.
And I think a lot...
Isn't he being touted as much as frickin' Sam Darnold was when he was at USC? And
you better watch it. Sam Darnold could end up winning the NFC South. You better watch it.
With a running game. He's not doing anything.
I'm just saying.
He is trash quarterback.
He's the second coming of Trent Dilfer. No, I'm with you. But it'll be interesting with all these quarterbacks out there. Who ends up starting somewhere? Who ends up being a backup?
It's going to be crazy.
Will Derek Carr
time.
take a job as a backup? I can't see that. He's still got 2 or 3 good years left as a starter. But I thought that at least. I thought that with Matt Ryan. And look what happened in Indianapolis. Now, again, how much of that is the dysfunction of the front office with Jim Irsay not wanting to pay bonuses for him playing the full season?
Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in Indy. We talked about the Dolphins getting beat by the Packers. The Rams and the Broncos. God, that game was...
Baker Mayfield. There you go. There's another one. There you go. There's another one.
He got his shot now, and he's starting to turn it on.
He's 2-1 now, looking pretty good. He lost in Green Bay.
But he was there with the team for 2 days.
The Rams don't have their top 2 wide receivers, and he's 2-1. And thank you, by the way, for cutting Cam Akers, because now I picked him up for our fantasy football championship, and I'm plugging him into my starting lineup.
God.
We both knew he was going to make a difference, be a factor. It just didn't think it was going to be week 17.
He effed me most of the season, and I finally had to cut bait.
And nobody blames you for that.
So they weren't using him at all. There was no reason for them to use him, and now all of a sudden, frustrating.
And then finally we did talk about the Buccaneers coming from behind again, beating the Cardinals in Arizona.
Crazy, crazy. And hey, let's give Mayfield a little more credit for saving the on-field reporter at the end of the game when that scrum took place.
And of course, the NFL backs off. Initially, they
were going to suspend them both for a game. Now, nope, we're not going to suspend them. We're just going to fine them.
And I want to talk a little bit about the Monday night game. Now, we talked about the Colts side of things. We talked about Jeff Saturday and the challenges and Nick Foles being a hot piece of trash. The Chargers are in. They're now 9-6. They are in. They're locked in. You and I both agree.
Staley needs to join Hackett on the unemployment line.
But he's not going to because he's got him in the playoffs. I do see a regression with Justin Herbert, and I blame Staley for that.
Exactly.
But did you see the hit Derwin James put on the Colts wide receiver?
No, I didn't see that one.
One of the most brutal, vicious hits I have ever seen. First thing I thought of for people our age, Darryl Stingley.
Oh, God.
Both players out of the game, concussion protocol. Derwin James was ejected. When we were talking about the suspensions in the Rams-Broncos game getting reduced to fines, I'm waiting to hear Roger Goodell and the front office lay down the law on Derwin James and say, dude, you're done for the rest of the year. You cannot make a hit like that.
You cannot.
Leading with your helmet on a defenseless receiver. I mean, you've got to see it.
That is the definition of a no-no.
You've got to see it. I can't do it justice. You have got to see the hit. Derwin James was headhunting, like Jack Tatum on Darryl Stingley back in the day. And Darryl Stingley, for you kids who don't know, is paralyzed in a wheelchair for the rest of his life because of the hit that the Raiders' Jack Tatum put on him. And this reminded me, Aikman, Buck both agreed. It was a brutal, nasty hit that needs to go away.
Yeah. That's unacceptable in this day and age.
All right, shifting to college football. Of course, bowl season is in full swing. The transfer portal is in full swing.
Good God.
Notre Dame is getting hurt, getting helped. I'm not sure coming up with the bowl game here. We're going to pick it in a minute with South Carolina. They lost Pine. He's going to Arizona State. Tyler Buckner's going to start the bowl game. But now they almost undercut him, cut his balls off. By now, the rumors are they're bringing in Sam Hartman.
Yep, transferring in from Wake Forest as a grad transfer. Thanks to the COVID season.
So when we get to this game, we have to talk about the impact this could or could not have on Notre Dame. Now, in terms of recruiting, of course, National Signing Day has been bumped up. So we just had it last week. Notre Dame, according to Rivals, one of the preeminent companies, magazines that rates
all the
recruiting.
Players.
Notre Dame had the number 7 class overall.
Yep.
Not bad.
Not bad. Would have been, a top 1 or 2 if they would have kept the 2 recruits that bailed to Oregon.
Well,
then the one went to Washington, wasn't it?
Peyton Bowen, the safety that we talked about last week.
Or was it not Washington? Was it
Oklahoma? He bailed from Oregon to Oklahoma. And Miami's
God.
got their own issues because Miami had a great recruiting class, but rivals had them ranked as a number 5 class overall. But defensive back Cormani McClain was supposed to have a signing ceremony at his high school and did not show up.
Oh,
and I have not heard what the status is, if
Oh,
he's still
my.
with the Canes or if he's bailing.
Wow.
So I think that number 5 ranking is hinging on
Him being
McClain.
there.
Yeah, but there were pictures out there of the Canes sent a cake to the high school, orange and green, and sitting there on the floor in the gymnasium.
Waiting for the celebration that never
came.
happened.
Oh, boy.
Wow. That hurts.
Yep. In other Miami news, the great Ed Reed is now taking over as head coach of Bethune-Cookman. And, of course, Miami usually plays Bethune-Cookman every year.
Yep.
So that will be interesting.
Fun. That will be a
the
fun
Miami
game.
Hurricane legend, the great Ed Reed, coaching against his alma mater.
Why not? He's got to start somewhere if he wants to coach the Canes down the road.
I got to believe that's a long-term goal. Got to believe it. Of course, he's following in the footsteps of Deion Sanders. Hopefully, will hold himself in a little more
in higher regard,
and poise than Deion.
Deion's never been a classy guy.
Of course, we've talked about the transfer portal ad nauseum. Keaton Slovis going to his 3rd team now, of course, was the USC quarterback. Then last year was Pittsburgh's quarterback. Now he's going to BYU. Yes, kids, keep track on your scorecard at home.
Use a pencil.
We talked about DJ Uiagalelei, the Clemson quarterback. He's going to Oregon State. And then, of course, to wrap up National Signing Day and the transfers and the NILs and all that crap, in the end, guess what? Alabama still had the number 1 class.
Whoop.
Shocking. Shocking beyond all belief.
Not really. Hey, can we talk about the new quote? Don't be an ass. Our boy Mike Gundy does it again after the loss in the bowl game.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Wisconsin beat Oklahoma State. Reporter asks a legitimate question. Are you going to be making any changes to your staff? In true Gundy fashion. Do you think I would tell you if I was going to make changes? Then why would you ask? The reporter's, I'm just doing my job. He goes, well, I might have to cut you out. Don't be an ass. Really? These are people's lives, man. That's people's families. Don't mess with people's families. Let's do it the right way. It's not fair to people's families, man.
Well, of course, we lost the great Mike Leach, and we'll be picking Mississippi State. Say that 5 times fast. MISSISSIPPI. But of course, losing Mike Leach and Mike Gundy's the only one we've got. I almost said Stan Van Gundy. I'm so screwed up right now. Mike Gundy, the 40, 50-year-old man with the mullet.
Don't be an ass, really.
But yeah, they had an awful end of the season. A terrible, terrible end of the season. Remember, they were top 10.
They were.
And they pretty much lost almost every game second half of the season now, including the bowl game. Which, of course, we need to talk about. Recap some of the bowl games that we picked last week that have occurred. There are still a few on the slate that are being played right now, of course.
Yep.
4 bowl games here on Wednesday, the 28th. And Dave is ecstatic. Dave is happy.
The great equalizer has brought me back into contention.
Because Duke beat UCF this afternoon as we tape on the 28th, Dave and I are now tied for the lead for the Rick Shaggy Brooks Memorial Trophy for excellence in football picks. And that trash-talking son of a bitch, the Big Blue W, just loves it. He just loves it because every year, Kev always jumps out to the lead, and then
he'll choke it away.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
But I'm
really
glad.
Don't want to have
Dave, I'm fine. If it was Bill, I would really be upset.
The great equalizer bit me a few years back, too, when I had a big lead coming into it. So you don't want to jump out with the great equalizer looming on the horizon.
Yep. So I would say right now, rough estimate, we've probably got about 30 to 40 more games, maybe 45 with the NFL playoffs, one more week of the NFL regular season after our picks this week. We'll get close to 400. This will be a record. This will be a record.
God and all that's holy.
But yes, Dave and I are tied for the lead in our football picks competition. Again, I don't want to go through all these bowl games because they
don't mean
we're
much.
not there yet. This weekend, of course, are the big ones, the semifinals. We'll get to those in a second. East Carolina, Coastal Carolina was interesting just because Coastal Carolina, the kid who was transferring out ended up playing and gets hurt.
Yep, diving in for a touchdown, lands on the top of his head and rolls over. I hope it's not a compression fracture of the vertebrae or a neck injury, that it might just be slightly concussed. That would be best case, but a neck injury could really put an end to his career.
And again, this is one of those things that we deal with these kids, where
do you play? Do you not play?
And that's going to be coming up here as we pick our NCAA bowls for week 3. Starting off with the Duke's Mayo Bowl, Friday night, December the 30th, Maryland versus number 25, NC State. Now, I believe NC State's quarterback is out.
Yeah, and then Maryland was losing some of their defensive guys.
That's the thing. Each of these teams,
it's a crapshoot.
It's so hard to keep track of.
It's a crapshoot.
I'm just going with the better offensive team. I'm taking Maryland. So is Sam, Bill, Doug of the picks that are in so far. 6 of the 8.
Yep, Nick and I so far the only 2 with NC State. I was looking at point differentials.
So far, you're doing better than me, so you must be doing something right.
We'll see what happens.
One of the few bowls where it's unanimous. The Sun Bowl, Pittsburgh versus number 18, UCLA. We talked about the fact Pittsburgh, Keaton Slovis has left.
Yep.
He's in the transfer portal.
But hey, let's give it up for UTEP basketball coach. What was his name? Joe Golding. He was stranded at the Dallas airport with his family because of flights, couldn't get home. So he goes and winds up renting a car, one of the last ones available, big SUV, walking through, sees 3 Pitt football players, talks to them. Yeah, they're trying to get to the Sun Bowl. He drives them to El Paso. He and his family drive them overnight, the 9-hour trip to make sure that they got there. What a classy move.
And I have a proposition for you. I was thinking about this more for the weekend edition, but it should be on both. Since both our regular sports edition and our weekend edition, we have the Red Foreman Dumbasses of the Week. I think we need to bring a little bit more positivity. So I was thinking, I'm just putting it out there. We need to have an award like for this guy, the UTEP coach, every week, like the Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week. Somebody pick the coolest guy we know, Clint Eastwood, the Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week.
Yeah, I know we can't use the Walter Payton Award because that's already in use by the NFL.
But I wouldn't even use Walter Payton.
No, but just
the tough badass,
just a badass,
cool dude of the week who does something above and beyond.
Something really special.
I think we should put that out there.
I think we need to do something like that.
Badass of the Week might be something to think about to bring some positivity.
And this would be the inaugural winner.
Because I've got one for the weekend edition. I've already got one for the weekend edition.
Bully. We do it.
We're starting it. We're doing it.
The Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week.
Hell yeah.
When we find them.
God, I would hope we could find one a week. If we could find 5 or 6 dumbasses, can't we find one badass of the week?
I would hope so.
We got the dumbasses and the badasses. All right, moving on. Local interest for the Gator Bowl, number 19 Notre Dame and number 20 South Carolina. I am on Cock Island. Oh, Jesus God. Did I just say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
Oh, my God. Out of the 6 picks we've got in, I'm the only one taking South Carolina. I'm taking the Gamecocks.
If it comes down to it with the running game, Notre Dame can run the ball.
This is where we go back to what we were talking about earlier, where...
And South Carolina's losing a couple of their guys.
They are too.
They're losing a couple of their top defensive players.
How does Sam Hartman coming in affect Tyler Buckner's mental state for this game?
It should shore it up saying, this is my chance to show I belong.
And he's going to have to enter the transfer portal. He's not going to beat out Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is
Hartman's a one and done
quarterback.
He's a one and done.
Maybe Notre Dame is finally starting to get into the one and done stuff.
Maybe they are. We'll have to see.
I think South Carolina better coach too. I'm sorry, better coach.
We'll see where we stand.
So I am on Cock Island.
He's going to sit on his cocks.
I keep thinking of Castaway and Wilson, the volleyball. Instead of him, it's a dildo with a little smiley face painted on him. I'm like Tom Hanks talking
just
to my
stroking
cock.
Your cock.
Just talking to my cock on Cock Island.
There's a Jackal song in here somewhere.
Oh, my God. Can we move on to the Arizona Bowl, please?
Yes, please.
Ohio versus Wyoming. You and I, Bill and Doug, are going with Ohio. Wyoming for Sam and Nick. Ohio had a really good end of the season. They stumbled a bit in their championship game against Toledo, but I think they're playing better football.
I will take a team whose average points for is higher than their points against. Wyoming overall average is getting outscored. Sorry. When looking at stuff, you got to take that into consideration.
Hey, the way you're picking things, if you and I are on the same page, I'm putting it down as a win right now. Because it's lonely on Cock Island.
That it is.
The Orange Bowl. We're getting to the big ones now, kids.
Now it starts
number
to
6, Tennessee. Number 10, Clemson. I see some dissent here among the 6 picks that we have in so far.
Yep, we do have some. This was not easy. Both of them are losing players.
Some to injury.
Some to injury. Some to the portal.
Yeah, we talked about DJ Ungulalele.
They might be better with the other quarterback. He hasn't gotten that much experience. Tennessee's losing a couple of their big receivers, but they're deep at receiver.
Yeah, but they also have lost their quarterback to injury.
They have.
And I'm hearing a lot of issues with the new quarterback in terms of accuracy.
It's a toss-up on this one.
Well, Sam and I are taking Clemson. You and Bill, Nick, and Doug so far are taking the Vols. Yes,
right.
We're going to have spillage. Deal with the kids.
It happens, but we're going to knock out the Music City Bowl real quick. Iowa versus Kentucky.
I read a great quote about this game where somebody said it will be shocking if they score a combined total of 25 points in this game. These are two offensively challenged teams.
That's one way to put it. Kentucky has a slightly better offense,
but they've lost their quarterback.
They lost their quarterback again. I don't know that that's going to make that much of a difference with Iowa.
I think it is
know.
going to. Now we're split even with the 6 picks we've got in. Me,
Tennessee's
Sam,
closer to Kentucky, so I'm giving Kentucky the home field advantage.
me, Sam, and Bill are taking the Hawkeyes. Dave and Nick and Doug are taking Kentucky. That's going to do it for segment 2. We will wrap up. We've got about 6 more picks left in the bowls, and then we move on. We've got some baseball, some NASCAR.
Little bit of NHL history again to recap. Some moments of silence, dumbass. Yep. We have the wrap-up coming, kids. Stay tuned.
This is Coach K, and after my retirement from college basketball, I plan to become an analyst on Sports Frenzy 2.0 with the Maestro and the Conquistador every Thursday on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page.
That's the sound of spillage, kids.
Again, like we said, with the season wrapping up, might not get too much more spillage, but we love it, as you should too. He's a Conquistador, Dave Height.
He's the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
Segment 3 here, Sports Frenzy 2.0, December the 28th, 22, dropping the morning of the 29th.
Again, Happy New Year.
Wrapping up our picks. We're getting into the big guys now, the big teams, the big bowl games. We left off with the Sugar Bowl. Number 5, Alabama, and number 11, Kansas State. Kind of shocked. We did get a 7th panelist picks in. Aaron got his picks in, so we've got 7 of our 8 panelists in. And I am kind of surprised. Everybody taking Alabama. Now, I think the big reason why is that there was a question about how many players would be coming back for Alabama.
Right.
Bryce Young is kind of going to play. He's coming back for this game. It sounds like a couple other players are also. So Alabama should be close to full strength.
Yeah. They've got the players who feel that they have unfinished business with how things went down.
Wouldn't that be awesome if all these players at all these schools felt like that?
Taking some pride in the program like they used to back in the day.
Yep. So everybody's taking the Crimson Tide here in the Sugar Bowl. Next up, the first semifinal game, the Fiesta Bowl, number 2, Michigan, number 3, TCU on New Year's Eve.
Would I like to see TCU win? Abso-frickin-lutely. I don't know that they can get by that Michigan defense.
Agreed completely. And everybody is on the same page as us, except for Doug. He's taking TCU, and I do like the TCU quarterback, Max Duggan. I think he's fantastic. I hope he will sneak onto an NFL roster, and he could be the next Gardner Minshew. The other national semifinal to wrap up New Year's Eve. Number 1, Georgia at the Peach Bowl. Number 4, Ohio State. This should be a nice little slobber knocker.
It should be one hell of a game. But again, Georgia's defense, very stout. Ohio State at home couldn't do anything with Michigan's defense. That gives me pause why I'm taking Georgia.
Everybody, 7 of the 8 picks on our panel are in. Everybody taking the Georgia Bulldogs. So we're looking at, unless Doug somehow lucks into that pick with TCU, we're predicting number 1 versus number 2, Georgia, Michigan in the final. But we still got 4 more bowls left. Monday, January the 2nd, the ReliaQuest Bowl. Who the hell came up with this one?
I have no idea.
The ReliaQuest Bowl, number 24, Mississippi State versus Illinois. Of course, the specter of the
pirate.
The death of Mike Leach hanging over this game. And I think, just like last weekend we saw with the Steelers winning one for Franco Harris, I think Mississippi State will feel obligated to win this game for Mike Leach.
Absolutely. And Illinois, as well as they had played most of the year, they fell apart down the stretch.
Yep. So everybody except Sam.
Sam's going with Illinois.
Sam's taking the Illini. Everybody else takes Mississippi State.
And that was the weak Big Ten division that Illinois was winning.
Yep. Now, I will say this. I think the Big Ten was a little bit stronger this year than,
it was a little bit better.
Most of us expected.
They were better.
Citrus Bowl, another one of these games that it's like the Pittsburgh-UCLA game in the Sun Bowl we talked about last segment. This is a unanimous pick. It seems like even experts outside of Sports Frenzy agree. This is going to be a blowout.
It is. Number 16 LSU at Purdue. Purdue with the hodgepodge coaching staff led by Drew Brees. Yeah, it's a talent. This is a talent level game.
Yeah, everybody's taking LSU on our panel. The Cotton Bowl. This is a good one. Number 8 USC versus number 14 Tulane. I have loved what I've seen from Tulane this year, but the deciding factor for me, considering how awful I've been doing my bowl picks, I've been doing a deep dive into my bowl picks. All the teams that Tulane has beat up on in their conference have all lost their bowls badly. UCF, SMU, to name 2 of them. So I'm supposed to have faith that Tulane, Caleb Williams, is supposed to play the Heisman Trophy winner for USC. I take the Trojans.
Absolutely. Again, this is another game of talent.
Yep. Now, Caleb Williams doesn't have to opt out because of the draft. He's got another year where he's got to play for USC before he can go into the NFL.
Yeah, he's not going to have 2 of his top receivers, but again, USC has depth at that position.
Bill and Doug are taking Tulane. The other 5 of us are taking USC. And finally, to wrap up our bowls, outside of the championship,
the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl.
Toughest game to pick for me. Toughest game to pick.
Absolutely.
Number 7, Utah. Number 9, Penn State. And Dave and I are on, it's not Cock Island.
No, it's Pedophile Island.
Oh, God. You had to go there, didn't you? You had to go to Sandusky Island. Somehow Dave and I are the only 2 sane enough to realize that Penn State only lost 2 games this year to Michigan and to Ohio State. James Franklin is very good in bowl games. And as good as Utah looked against USC, they stumbled a bit mid-season and they've lost some players too.
They have. So I just didn't like what I saw out of Utah down the line. Yes, they won the Pac-12, but sorry.
Yep, Dave and I are taking the Nittany Lions, but the other 5 picks in are all taking the Utes.
There you go.
It's a Ute movement. All right, Dave and I did not get to talk about NASCAR last week, so let's talk some racing here for a couple minutes. And a couple things I'm going to bring up with Dave. Now, this is not one of them, but might be another team. As much as everybody wants to disparage NASCAR, they are on the rise. There are a lot of things looking up for NASCAR. Number 1.
The best thing is this next-gen car because it has truly leveled the playing field. You don't have to be at one of the big 4 or 5 teams to have a legitimate shot to win.
So now we have got an international flavor possibly coming in. 3F Racing out of Germany is looking to enter the Cup Series in 2023.
Very cool.
And on the announcement, of course, last year, or not last year, it's still 2022, Kev. We're not 2023 yet. Earlier this year, about the street course race in Chicago, multiple cities have reached out to NASCAR saying they want to know.
We would like to know how can we get in on this act.
And NASCAR has said 2024 schedule still fluid. Until we hear a revolt from the fans, basically, we'll keep changing things up.
And I don't know that you're going to hear a revolt from the fans because there are a lot of tracks that we would like to see one race only at or go away. Kansas, Loudon.
Dave has some homework to do for you next week. I
Oh,
love
God.
giving Dave homework. The eligibility and format for the 2023 Clash at the Coliseum
Are they jacking it up again?
Oh my God, you have got to have a degree in mathematics, calculus, everything and anything to figure this out. So as always, each and every year, Dave is responsible next week for giving you guys a breakdown of what the 2023 Clash is going to look like. He does this for the Clash. He does this for the All-Star race. He loves it. He's shaking his head, but he loves it.
Yeah, I had to do it for the frickin' Bristol dirt race, too.
Professor Dave will have his homework assignment done for next week for everybody.
Maybe.
And then finally in racing, the SRX schedule is out. And there's one in there that's really interesting. First up, Stafford Springs, Stafford Raceway in Connecticut. Of course, they've raced there before. Week 2, Thunder Road in Barr, Vermont. Week 3, the Motor Mile in Radford, Virginia. Week 4 is where it gets interesting. Berlin Raceway just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Ooh.
Technically in Marne, Michigan, northwest of Grand Rapids.
That might be
I have already
a
looked
road
into tickets. I have already looked into tickets. They are on sale. Unfortunately, you have to drive through Grand Rapids to get to it, or you drive along Lake Michigan.
We'll figure it out.
But yes, the SRX series coming in week 4 to Grand Rapids, Michigan at the Berlin Raceway. Of course, week 5, you know it, you love it, Eldora.
Yes, they're running the dirt, baby.
Yep, New Weston, Ohio. And then they will wrap up their 6-week season. Of course, we talked about on ESPN Thursday night, Thunder, Lucas Oil Speedway, not Indianapolis, Wheatland, Missouri. But the Grand Rapids race could be very interesting. We might have to give you a report live from Berlin Raceway.
Well, we might not be live, but
we might, just like a concert on the weekend edition, we will be there and we will tell you everything and anything about it, maybe possibly.
That could be a sports frenzy road trip.
All right, couple little NBA tidbits. I know we talked a lot about basketball last week. Last night, there was a game that I have to bring up here. Overtime win, 126-121 for the Dallas Mavericks over the New York Knicks. 2 reasons why we need to bring this up. Number 1, Luka Doncic is the best goddamn player in the world.
He is freaking phenomenal.
Luka Doncic, for the first time ever, had a 60-20 triple-double. 60 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists.
That's insane.
Nobody in NBA history has ever had a 60-20, 60 points, 20 rebounds, triple-double. Now, on top of that, the Mavericks had to come back to beat the Knicks. It was the first ever win, ever, where a team was down by 9 or more points with 35 or less seconds left in regulation.
That's crazy.
Literally over 1,000 scenarios. I believe over 1,300 games, scenarios. Never had a team lost when they had a 9-point lead or more with 35 seconds left.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And then, of course, on the injury front, big injury for the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker, one of the best players in the league, is out a minimum of 4 weeks with groin strain.
Oh, I hate that.
Devin, you can come to Cock Island with me.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, no, wait, no, that's not what I meant, Dave. I'm just saying the nature of the injury predicates.
Okay, there you go. All right, some NHL history was made. Alex Ovechkin again. 2 goals in his last game, passing Gordie Howe for number 2 all-time. Ovechkin now has 802 goals, trailing only the great one, Wayne Gretzky's 894.
He's going to have to play for, at least another 2 years minimum to get there?
Minimum, probably 3, being 92 points back. He usually is easy for 30-plus goals a year. So 3 more seasons. Well, after this year, who knows? We'll have to see where he is after this year. But, yeah, that's...
And he's having a good year.
He's having a good year. I mean, Ovechkin will wind up being the greatest goal scorer in history. The guy is just phenomenal, has a great shot and a nose for the net.
Only 1 title, though, right?
Only 1 title.
1 Stanley Cup.
So, and of course, the Blackhawks are still dead last. They did get a win last week, but they're still dead last with 20 points. Bruins are leading the NHL with 57, followed by the Hurricanes at 52 points.
Real quick, in NCAA basketball, the 2 teams that we follow, putting some Christmas cheer into Dave's stocking. Notre Dame struggling a little bit at 8-5 before they even really get into ACC play.
Yeah, that's no excuse
could be
for
the
that.
end for Mike Bray, is what I'm hearing. Could be, maybe, finally.
Probably won't be.
But then, of course, you've got the great, the glorious Miami Hurricanes,
who are now a basketball school.
Number 14 after beating Virginia this past week. 12-1, the Hurricanes. Jim Larinaga, on a roll. As Dave said, we are now a basketball school, baby.
There you go. All right. Baseball. Carlos Correa just keeps getting more and more interesting, doesn't he?
I'm not apologizing for my rant about the Mets and baseball. I am not.
Not even close.
But now the thing is, we have to wait for a resolution on this because I want to see who's going to pay him, how much they're going to pay him.
Yeah, vindication for the Giants for hesitating.
Yeah, it wasn't because they didn't want to spend the money. It wasn't buyer's remorse because of the amount of money or the years. It was because they legitimately had a concern
about his repaired leg.
Yep. What, 2014?
2014 minor league injury. They had to surgically repair a broken leg.
Right.
And now it cropped up again. The Mets have a little bit of a concern about it going forward. And rightly so when you're dealing with this kind of money.
But news came out today, Carlos Correa will not renegotiate.
Nope. So now it's about a 50-50 on if the deal will happen or not. 3 teams, one of which is the Giants, are making overtures.
Honestly, in fairness,
it hasn't bothered him since.
The Giants should get him.
They should.
If it's the Mets, I will go back to ranting and raving about the Mets. The Giants were the first ones in the pool. Obviously now their concerns have been vindicated. And screw Scott Boras for making, him and his stupid jokes and his little puns he does every time he talks about his players.
We all hate Scott Boras. He is the worst thing to have happened to baseball.
We'll see what kind of contract eventually gets signed. But I'll tell you what contract did get signed. Again, the Atlanta Braves are fucking brilliant. The Atlanta Braves are unbelievably, ungodly brilliant. I am jealous of them. They make that trade taking advantage of the piss-poor Oakland A's.
Yep.
Bringing in all-star catcher Sean Murphy. Immediately now lock him up 6 years, $73 million. They have locked up the entire core of that team.
They are set for
They let Dansby Swanson go, but everybody else they locked in. That team is going to compete with Steve Cohen's I'll just pay everybody everything team.
Yeah, the buy it.
What's going to happen to the Mets when Verlander breaks down, when Scherzer breaks down?
Yep, they're going to be in a world of hurt. Rangers going all in on their rotation. This is an all or nothing rotation. They just signed Eovaldi to a 2-year, $34 million deal.
Yep, Nathan Eovaldi.
That gives them, 8 potential starting pitchers right now?
Yeah, but they needed the pitching. They
did.
had taken care of the hitting last year with Trevor Siemian and Corey Seager.
Yeah.
They needed this.
So they will definitely be an interesting team to watch coming out this season.
Still don't think they beat the Astros.
No,
Still don't think they beat the Astros.
Astros are still too tough.
Reds make their token move to show everybody, oh, yeah, we care. We care.
Yeah, no, you really don't.
They bring in Will Myers, formerly of the Padres.
Yep.
Michael Conforto, who did not play last year, goes to the Giants. 2 years, $36 million, can opt out after the first year. That seems to be something that a lot of these players are putting into their deals.
Yep. Give me a year with an opt out.
Yep. Red Sox bring in Corey Kluber.
Yep. And they're looking to try and trade Chris Sale, the China doll.
Nobody's going to take him. Who would be stupid enough to take him?
What, the next 2 years that they have him, and $27.5 million each year? Nobody's going to take that for this injury-plagued little prima donna.
No, sorry, not going to happen. Now, next year, a contender might make the deal, but he's going to have to play.
He needs
for the
to
Red
play
Sox
this year. He needs to show he can
pitch
a full damn season.
Let's put it this way, if he starts this year, if he starts day one and pitches well, maybe they sucker somebody,
at
a
the
contender
deadline.
in, like the Dodgers, somebody like that. You guys made a move? You need to talk about the White Sox. You acquired relief pitcher Gregory Santos from the Giants.
Doesn't necessarily make my radar. It's
Cubs,
a middling move.
Cubs solved their catcher problem. Yeah. Wilson Contreras for Tucker Barnhart. So now we have got Tucker Barnhart as part of our catcher rotation for 2 years. And they brought back the great, awesome Drew Smiley in their rotation for 2 years. I'm telling you, these pitchers are getting Rich Hill, 42-year-old Rich Hill gets $8 million. That, like the Reds signed Will Myers, the Pirates said, oh, we're trying too. We're going to bring in 42-year-old Rich Hill for $8 million.
What the hell good does that do him?
I don't know. And we paid $9 a year for Drew Smiley.
Yeah. God. It's abysmal, people.
We're going to have one more quick segment, but Dave and I have got a couple more topics in baseball to discuss. Then we will come back with our moments of silence and our dumbasses short force segment. But we have to talk about, number one, Trevor Bauer.
Yes, we do.
Now, you and I probably feel different about this. This might be one of those points of contention for you and I.
Maybe, maybe not.
Suspension reduced for Trevor Bauer from 324 games down to 194. Now, I am still completely confused on whether or not he can pitch at the beginning of this year or he cannot pitch until the end of May. I was under the understanding that he got docked for the money where he was not suspended but on the restricted list.
All right. Hey, the arbitrator actually, I think, got this right because he reduced it. We agreed it was way too much.
Considering
Way
the
too
fact,
long.
again,
That he wasn't convicted, that there was nothing
charges
there.
were dropped.
Yeah. The arbitrator cut it in half. And the arbitrator was smart enough to say everything he sat out already from the beginning of it counts towards it.
Right.
I love that part of it.
So that's where I'm confused.
So he would be able to start the season.
Okay. Now, the question is, are the Dodgers going to keep him? Or are they going to let him go? What are they going to do? It's bad PR, because, again, this is something you and I have talked about in the past, which I think this part you and I agree with, is that you have to let the legal process play out. You cannot penalize somebody. And if you want to say this about Deshaun Watson, that's fine. But last time I checked, Deshaun Watson had to settle cases.
That's right.
That's different. I'm sorry, but you have to settle a case where you're accused of something. You settle the case so you don't go to court.
Right.
That's different than fighting it like Trevor Bauer did.
And coming out on top.
Vindicated might be too strong of a word, but
there wasn't enough there to convict him. And what happened? Not the greatest of stuff that came out about him, but the woman went back a second time and she texted friends saying she was going to get him. She made those comments to people that she was going to get him.
And let's put it this way. And the hashtag #MeToo movement and hate sports frenzy. If he wanted to play for the Cubs for 18, 20 million a year, I'd take him in a heartbeat. I'd take him. He's still young enough. He's still a good enough pitcher. Get him at a bargain price. I'm not paying what the Dodgers paid for him.
And you're going to have clauses in there stipulating
behavior clauses. Right. And a lot of people out there, you guys might hate us for that opinion. Again, I don't think it's right for a workplace to penalize an employee more than the justice system does. That's not fair and that's not right. Let the legal process play out before you, as an employer, take action against an employee.
Yeah. There was enough that was going to happen to Deshaun Watson if he wouldn't have settled. He settled to avoid problems, which gave the NFL the legitimate cause to suspend him.
Now, finally, this is a terrible story. I hate to wrap up segment 3 with this, but we all know I loved. He pitched for the Cubs, of course, pitched for the Red Sox, pitched for the Oakland A's.
Dennis Eckersley.
Yep, Hall of Famer, starting pitcher, reliever. We know he had difficulties in life with substance abuse. But the story that's come out about his adopted daughter is just horrible and tragic.
She has issues of her own. She has chosen the homeless lifestyle. And
Alexandra Eckersley has been arrested for abandoning her newborn child, as Dave said, living in a tent.
And misleading authorities.
Not telling them where the newborn was as quickly as she could have in order to expedite. Now, luckily, the child is fine. It looks like
suffered hypothermia, but is making a recovery.
But would have been in better shape, had a better chance if Miss Eckersley had actually told the police where the child was to begin with.
Yeah.
Accurately. Again, I don't want to pin this on Dennis Eckersley. I don't know the family history. other than the fact that he has had issues with substance abuse. Obviously, she does as well.
She's got other issues other than the substance abuse.
But for her to have done this, I didn't know I was pregnant. I thought I just had to go to the bathroom.
I don't buy that. I do not buy that at all.
No, this is a terrible, terrible, tragic tale. I hope everything turns out okay for the child. I hope the child gets into a good family, foster care, adopted, whatever it might be, away from Alexander Eckersley.
Yeah, she should have no rights to this child at all.
And again, as much as I loved watching Dennis Eckersley pitch, I know there are demons in his past. I hope he didn't pass them on through his behavior to his adopted daughter and almost kill a child because of it.
Agreed.
All right, like I said, moments of silence and a couple dumbasses coming up.
We'll
And
be
of
back.
course, one of those dumbasses is one of our nominees for Dumbass of the Year. Because he keeps popping up. As Dave said, we will be right back. Hey kids, ready for a blast of dairy goodness? Pick up Sports Frenzy 2.0 milk at your local grocery store. Remember, when you drink Sports Frenzy 2.0 milk, you're not only enjoying a healthy treat, you're helping to locate missing sports heroes of the past and present. Our cartons and jugs feature pictures of Peng Shuai, Ryan Leaf, and Sammy Sosa as we do our part to find the lost icons of the last 30 years. And don't forget our special weekend edition chocolate milk containers, available on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, because they feature celebrities like Lindsay Lohan, Helen Hunt, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Pick up a gallon today. All right, kids, you get another bonus segment here this week on Sports Frenzy 2.0. Segment 4, brief but awesome, here on December the 28th, 2022, dropping on December the 29th. That is the Conquistador Dave Height.
That's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
It's time for moments of silence. Going to start off here with a female athlete who does not get the credit she deserves.
Not even close.
You guys out there have heard us rant and rave about the WNBA and Brittany Griner, but believe me, when it's earned, male or female, we will be the first to acknowledge greatness. It doesn't matter gender, religion, race, we don't care. Kathy Whitworth has been overlooked as, if not the greatest, one of the 2 or 3 greatest female golfers of all time. Probably up there with Nancy Lopez, Annika Sorenstam. But Kathy Whitworth has something they don't. Kathy Whitworth won 88 wins on the LPGA Tour.
She has more wins than any of her male compatriots.
Yes. Closest to her on the male side are Tiger Woods and Sam Snead at 82. And the way Tiger's going, I don't know if he can win 6 more. So,
probably not. He can barely gimp along playing with his kid at this latest Open that they're doing, and he has to use a cart through the 36 holes they're playing.
Yeah, and he needs Rory McIlroy to hold his hold his hand as they go along from tour to tour. But Kathy Whitworth, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light.
No,
Kathy Whitworth deserves our respect, our admiration for being the arguably greatest female golfer of all time. And this is where you could make the argument with tennis and golf. We've got all these arguments going on about, should we let transgender men into women be in women's sports? And, the women's soccer team arguing they should make as much, if not more money than the men and all that. But with golf and tennis, how you've got to look at it is women play women, men play men. So her 88 wins, Kathy Whitworth's 88 wins to me means just as much as Tiger's 82.
Yes.
Because she faced the competition that she was
had.
on a par with and beat them consistently.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
And of course, sad story I was telling Dave off mic. We all, I would hope, if we're not going out in a blaze of glory and saving somebody's life or doing something noble, we want to die in our sleep. We want it to be as painless as possible. And the sad thing is, Kathy Whitworth died, collapsed at a Christmas party in her neighborhood. And it's just not, it's a terrible look in terms of she deserved better. She deserved better than that. And I can't stress enough. You guys think we hate everybody and everything, but
just most.
Sometimes somebody like Kathy Whitworth deserves your respect and your attention because she never got enough of it when she was achieving the heights and the greatness that she did.
Yeah, because she was doing it through the 50s and the 60s into the 70s.
Yep. Yeah, that's when Nancy Lopez took over, and then Sorenstam, and but again, she's got the mark. She's got the stats,
and she did not get the coverage that she deserved.
Yep. So rest in peace, Kathy Whitworth.
Yep. Now moving on, the youngest of our moments of silence, Ronnie Hillman, former Denver Broncos running back, who was on the team for winning Super Bowl 50, passed away at the age of 31 from cancer. Hate that. Thoughts and prayers to his family and friends.
Yeah, and of course, this was a bad week in multiple ways, multiple levels for the Broncos. Of course, we know about the firing of Nathaniel Hackett and the bad season they've had, but not only with the Ronnie Hillman situation, but Demaryius Thomas. I believe it would have been his birthday this past week. And of course, he passed away within the last year or two. Not a good time to be a Broncos fan.
No. And then UFC Hall of Famer Stephen Bonner passes away at age 45 due to heart complications.
Again, way too young.
This stuff
just scares me. I mean, even with Kathy Whitworth, the situation was bad, but at least she lived a full, long life.
So Hillman with the cancer, you never know when that'll get you. And then the heart complications, was it from the UFC fighting? You don't know.
So, you never know with a fighter. Boxer, UFC, you never, ever know.
Yeah, so thoughts and prayers to the Bonner family and friends. All right, Ross. It's time to pivot.
Two dumbasses this week for you on Sports Frenzy. Now, of course, one of these sneaking in under the wire to again put his name in as potential dumbass of the year. We, of course, have now this week established the Clint Eastwood badass of the week. But for 30 years, Sports Frenzy has always acknowledged the stupidity, the arrogance, the moronic tendencies of athletes all around the globe. We've never really done a Sports Frenzy dumbass of the year, though. But
we have not. We've talked about it.
If there was, we got too much other stuff going on. But if there was one, this man would probably win it again this year. LeBron James stealthily deletes a tweet that he put out last April 2022 where he declared, "I will never miss the playoffs again." And as the Lakers struggle and are out of the playoff picture right now, as we approach the halfway point in the NBA season. He happened to delete that tweet. You do not.
How convenient.
You do not evade the all-seeing, all-knowing sports frenzy. Eye in the sky, the electric eye, as Rob Alford and Judas Priest would say. We are all seeing, all knowing. We know you deleted that tweet.
Own it, mister.
LeBron James, once again, for the last time in 2022, but probably not the last time ever on Sports Frenzy. You, sir, are a dumbass. Now, I alluded to this one back in segment 1, but I didn't elaborate because I had this down as our other dumbass of the week. The NFL Network should be ashamed of themselves. We know the history of television in the NFL, going all the way back to the Heidi debacle back in the 70s, right?
Yes.
Was that 60s or 70s? I can't quite remember. It was way back at the beginning of the Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
When the Raiders were playing a game and they cut away to go to the movie Heidi.
Which was scheduled, and the idiot in the control room flipped the switch without realizing the game was still going on.
It ended up being a dramatic comeback win. Even though this wasn't a dramatic comeback win, it was just bad form and a bad look for the NFL Network. Again, remember, this is the network of the NFL. This is not a TBS or a TNT.
No, this is the flagship station.
During the Franco Harris tribute at halftime of the Christmas Eve game between the Steelers and the Raiders, the NFL Network callously cuts to a commercial right in the middle of the Franco Harris tribute.
There's no excuse for that on the NFL Network. None whatsoever.
And again, everybody looks at the NFL and goes, the NFL is king. Look at the ratings.
They don't know what the hell they're doing either.
They do a lot. I won't say everything and anything, but they do a lot to foil their own success with stuff like this.
Yes, they do. They are notorious for that. All right. Happy New Year, kids.
But we're not done with you yet.
No.
Because you've still got the weekend edition coming up on New Year's Eve. It'll be a day early for that hangover. God help you, you might have a problem if you're hungover Friday night, and then, of course, Saturday night we know
and
you're
then
drinking.
most people will not be working on Monday.
So, we will be there, as always, Saturday morning, December the 31st, 2022.
Music, movies, streaming, books. We got you covered,
We
kids.
will review Top Gun, Maverick. We will give you our top 5 concerts of 2022. We have got a lot of TV and streaming to talk about. It's going to be a jam-packed weekend edition to prepare you for your second hangover of the weekend.
On amateur night.
Yes. Dave and I will be staying at home. We did our due diligence back
in the day.
40 years ago. We did it. We know what it's like, and that's why we stay home. That's why we podcast instead of going out. But
I will be going to a college hockey game, a Big Ten hockey game, New Year's Eve, 7 o'clock start, and then back home in time to finish the festivities.
Again, get off the road before amateur hour begins.
Pretty much.
So, he's a conquistador, Dave Height.
He's a maestro, Kevin Crane.
Check out the weekend edition. Check out the Facebook page. Football picks are starting to wrap up for the year. We've still got a few weeks to go, of course, the NFL playoffs, but you can find all of our picks on our Facebook page every weekend, as well as links to each and every episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0. We love you. Check us out this Saturday morning for the weekend edition. We will talk to you then.